awesome video. In the video, we will be reacting to another video of people who are living in 3023. So like 1,000 years from this year. 1,000 years. Yeah. 200 though. It's more than that.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Charlie here, and today we're going to be looking at 10 people who are living in 3018. So, we're all living in 2018, right? This means we're forced to live by the constraints of this time. But some people have gone way past this time and right into the future. So, here are some very genius yet questionable people who are living in 3018. If you don't get what I mean when I say that, just check out these pictures. But first, why not subscribe and press the notification bell too? Coming in at number 10, we have Engineer Dad. So a few years back, stay-at-home mums were a regular thing. But today, there are many stay-at-home dads. This is often the case when there's a young baby at home that the dad has to look after. But it seems sometimes these dads' former occupations can creep into their parenting. One day, a former engineer turned into a stay-at-home dad. Now, some people said this was a bad idea as he'd start engineering his babies. At first, he said it wouldn't happen, but then it definitely did. Parents spend hours every day holding their babies and feeding them milk. So instead, this former engineer dad decided to make this. As you can see, it's a contraption that sticks to his bed and feeds his babies milk. This way, he doesn't have to do it himself and hold the babies 24/7. Is this lazy parenting or just smart? It may not be all that personal, but it is pretty smart. This way, the baby can just drink when they're thirsty and won't have to rely on anyone holding them up. And you have to admit, the engineering of these things is pretty impressive. Not only is that an awesome bendable wire, but these are all made with things around the house. That's right, this isn't an invention the guy simply bought. He made it all by himself. Say what you will, but judging by the creativeness and smartness of this dad, his kids will be too. Next up is telephoto lens. Some people like sports so much they even want to go into sports photography. However, sports photography can be a very hard thing to get into. Of course, you have to learn how to do it well, but one of the main difficult things about sports photography is getting the equipment. When you see those close-up sports photos in newspapers, they use things like this. The photographers need to use massive clear lenses. Believe it or not, they aren't using an iPhone. But not everyone has $10,000 to buy a bunch of fancy lenses. So instead, one guy living in 3018 decided to do this. He went to a Yankees vs Marinas baseball game one night. He wanted to take some photos, but he only had his phone. So instead of spending thousands on an expensive lens, he spent $10 on a pair of binoculars. He then simply put his phone camera up to the binoculars and took photos. This way they're zoomed in and it maintains the quality of the image. Now, of course the image is in a small circle, but I guess you can always crop it. Somebody standing behind this guy at the game was amazed and took this image of him. I have to say, this guy's living in 3018. But is his idea good or dumb? It may look a bit goofy, but if it saves you $10,000, then maybe it's worth it. By the looks of his phone, he's getting some pretty nice images. And if photography doesn't work out, at least he has the equipment to become an artist. I guess if he wanted, he could draw the game. Next up is shower. Do you ever wake up late for class and forget to take a shower? We've all been there, and you can feel pretty bad for the day. Well, it seems this happened to one guy, but he decided to do something about it. Instead of just not taking a shower or taking one at a public gym, he made his own portable shower. As far as I'm concerned, one of these has never been made before, and perhaps there's a good reason for that. As you can see, he was walking through the streets having a shower. He's made this 3018 era contraption which straps to his back. It appears to be two large water containers with piping. There's then a wire and plastic tubing which connects to a shower head which cleans him. I just hope he lives in a hot country so he can dry off soon. As you can see, everyone around him appears to be staring, and I can see why. But he looks like he's just having a regular day and doesn't seem bothered by it whatsoever. I'm sure we all wish we could not care as much as this guy. Would you guys ever use this contraption? You may be saying no, but if you ever wake up 15 minutes before your class starts, you'll definitely want one of these. Next up is apartment pool. So you may think that some of the people living in 3018 on this list are pretty smart, but for this one I'm not so sure. Of course most apartments don't have pools, and if they do they're a communal pool you have to share with everyone else. Well, it seems one boy wants to live a life of luxury without paying for it. So he decided to make his own personal swimming pool in his own apartment. He simply got some plastic sheets and put a water hose in them. He then turned on the sink and made his own personal swimming pool. Now, you may think this is genius, and I have to say it is a pretty creative idea. This kid may have a future as a builder, however, he'll likely make a building that's gonna fall down one day. That is because I'm 100% sure this is not safe. It's only a matter of time before the pressure of that water breaks the glass and the guy falls down. I just hope the guy's landlord isn't watching this video, or he could be in a lot of trouble. It seems like he's just a kid, and I have to say that is a pretty creative idea for a kid. But this isn't exactly gonna be easy to clean up before his parents get back. Chances are someone's gonna notice him throwing 100 liters of water off his balcony. But what do you guys guys think of this? Would you jump into this apartment swimming pool or would you stay well away? My advice would be just don't stand underneath it. When that glass breaks and 100 liters of water falls down, I don't want to be standing underneath it.
Yeah!
Next up is eye mask. So
Real.
nobody likes being stuck on an airplane. It's very cramped up, the air's all stale, and you just want to go to sleep most of the time. That is why many people do sleep on airplanes. On some flights, they offer eye masks, but not always. Well, it seems like one flyer was very tired, but she didn't have an eye mask. So instead, she decided to go to 3018 and create her own. She simply got her hair, pulled it across her eyes to make her own eye mask. This is a pretty simple thing to do, but I've never seen this ever done before. By the looks of it, it's working pretty well, and she seems very relaxed. A lot more relaxed than the kid behind her. Are you guys ever going to try this interesting hack? I can see this really catching on in schools. One thing's for sure though, this woman is living in 3018. She came up with an idea that seems stupid, but when you really think about it, is pretty smart.
Yeah.
Next up is scooter seat. So from this list, we've seen that kids can live in 3018, only not usually in a very safe way. Well, here's another not very safe kid who's living in 3018. One day a kid was in a train. Now, sometimes in a train you can't get a seat, and it's all full. This means you're likely gonna have to stand up holding onto one of those dirty old handrails. However, this kid had a scooter, so he decided to use some engineering. As you can see, he made a scooter seat. He simply hung his scooter from the two hand hooks and sat on it. Now, this doesn't exactly make sense here as there's clearly spare seats. But if there ever wasn't spare seats and you have a scooter, then try doing this. It may look pretty ridiculous, but it makes a new seat. And also it looks pretty fun. I have to say that kid looks very pleased with himself. And to be honest, he should. Even if his idea isn't needed and looks pretty goofy, it's still very creative. And chances are this kid has a pretty good engineering mind. Hang in there, kid. Literally. Next up is juice. So if you're really thirsty and want a drink of juice, what do? Chances are you buy a large drink of juice, right? Well, that is not what one girl did. Instead, it seems her juice only came in 6 packs. So instead of buying one large bottle of juice, she bought 6 small ones. But instead of drinking the juices one by one, she had the whole box at once. Somebody in Japan spotted her drinking all 6 juices at once. This photo went viral and she was called the Juice Box Queen. She really does seem focused on that juice. I have to say, I've never seen anyone do anything like this before, but you have to admit it is pretty clever. This way she can quench her thirst and have a lot of juice all at once. I think the only person smarter than her is this kid. Instead of having to go through the hardship of holding his juice, he simply put it in his pocket. He then got a straw and voila, he can drink without...
Stupid ad.
He simply put it in his pocket. He then got a
Okay,
straw
I'm
and voila,
tired.
he can drink without ever holding his drink. I thought Pepsi was already unhealthy, but now that you're not even using your arms to hold it, you've just made it even more unhealthy. Congrats.
Yeah.
Next up is haircut. So no matter what kind of a haircut you have, you like to go to the barber to get your haircut. Even if it's a simple haircut, you don't want to do it yourself in case you mess it up. Well, one guy living in 3018 came up with an idea to see every angle of his head while giving himself a haircut. First, he sat in front of a mirror, so he could see the front, but what about the back? Well, to make sure he could always see what was going on behind him, he attached a DSLR to a monitor. This way he can see what's going on in real time and cut his hair perfectly. Now, it may be a lot easier to go to the barber, but hey, if he's saving $10, then why not?
Yeah.
Sure, a monitor and a DSLR is probably more expensive than a haircut.
It would be
Do you
like
guys
30,
think what this guy's doing
or
is smart
maybe
or dumb?
like
Just
20,
imagine
but-
walking in and seeing your roommate doing
It's been like
this. I have to say, this is a
$25
pretty
on a
creative idea,
haircut.
but also at the same time pretty ridiculous and futuristic. Who knows, maybe by 3018 we'll all be cutting our own hair like this. Perhaps this guy's just ahead of the curve. Next up is water. So in this image we're going to look at an employee.
Water.
However, this employee is clever enough to own the whole company. He was sent out on a task to fill up 4 buckets of water. Now you may think he'd have to monitor and change the buckets all the time, but instead he used some amazing engineering to fill up all the buckets at once. As you can see, he put each can on a different level. He then used the nozzle of each can so that when one fills up, so does the next. Because of these cans all going downwards, it means that only one will ever be full at one time. This means that when one of the cans get full, he can simply take it out of the operation. I have to say, this is an incredibly smart thing to do. So smart the guy even had to take a commemorative photograph. This guy may just be an employee, but who knows, maybe he's a future Bill Gates. Next up is flossing. If you want perfect teeth, flossing is essential. However, sometimes it can be hard to do effectively. Of course, it's easy to do to your front teeth, but what about the teeth on your sides? Sometimes it can be tricky, which is why this boyfriend is living in 3018. One day, a girlfriend shared a photo of her boyfriend saying that he's living in 3018. This is because he's using the mouthpiece from the game Speak Out for optimal flossing. Mouthpiece is a game where you try and say words while wearing a big mouthpiece. As you can see by this kid's face, it looks like a whole lot of fun. But this guy actually came up with a practical use for this game. I'm not sure if this has been approved by a dentist or not, but it looks like it's working for this guy. Would you guys ever try Speak Out for better flossing, or does it look too stupid? Next up is cheater nails. So back in the day, the way kids used to cheat on school tests was notes. They'd simply write their answers in a cheat sheet and peek every now and then. But today, teachers are super vigilant and you simply can't do that. Some teachers even check kids' pockets and make them give in their phones before a test. That is why one girl came up with an amazing idea to cheat in a test. She wore some fake nails, but in the underside of the fake nail, she hid secret equations. As you can see, these equations are very small and you can't fit much on. But remember, you have 10 fingers, so that's 10 equations that you can have for free. This girl must have amazingly small and neat handwriting to be able to do this. If this was me, I'd only be able to do about one number per nail. Do you think this is a good idea or not? I'm not saying you guys should ever cheat, but if you do it like this. This girl seriously is living in 3018. But sorry students, now that this photo has gone viral, teachers are going to be checking under nails.
Yeah.
If you're a teacher watching this, then forget what you just saw. Next up is rainproof. Nobody likes getting caught in the rain. However, from time to time it can happen, and even if you have an umbrella, you're not guaranteed to stay dry. Well, here is some cuteness from the future. As you can see, this kid is living in 3018. I assume his parents either bought or made this for him. It appears to be an invention which keeps you 100% dry in the rain. It has a regular headpiece which prevents your hair from getting wet. But as you can see, this disc around you prevents any rain from getting on you whatsoever. The rain simply falls off all around you, and I have to say, this is a very clever idea. Have you guys ever seen an invention like this before? And if so, where can I get an adult-sized one?
Yeah.
Next up is cereal. When it comes to snacks, cereal is great. Just ask Seinfeld. The only downside to a bowl of cereal is sometimes it's just not enough. And also you have a bunch of washing up to do afterwards. Well, one day somebody found out a way to have a massive bowl of cereal and not clean anything up. You may be asking, how can I do this? Well, it's simple. All you do is cut a hole in your cereal box and the packaging. Then you just pour milk directly in the box and use a spoon. This means you're able to eat the entire cereal box in one container. And you may be wondering, why don't I have to wash anything up? Well, think about it. Inside a cereal box is plastic casing. This, along with the cardboard box, will contain all the milk. So when you're done, you can simply throw it away. I have to say, this is a very genius yet crazy idea. Just make sure you have a big appetite before you start doing this, otherwise it may be a big waste of cereal. But if you guys are ever in the mood to eat an entire box of cereal, then try this out. You may be saying, when am I ever going to be in the mood to eat a whole box of cereal? But be honest, we've all been there. Next up is plate wall. So when you're at a cookout, it can be annoying to hold your plate. It means you only ever have one available hand. And if you're holding a drink or handshaking as well as holding a plate, you've got zero. Well, that is why one very resourceful kid came up with a solution. As you can see, he's using one of the cracks on the wall to hold his plate. Now, this may look very precarious, and he'll likely get in a lot of trouble if this breaks. But the fact that he came up with this means he's probably a smart kid, so I trust him. The downside is you may have to face the wall the entire cookout. But hey, at least you don't have to spend all your time holding up a plate. Who's more smart, this kid who doesn't have to hold his plate, or that kid from before who doesn't have to hold his Pepsi? I'd say both are equally as smart and lazy. I'd say both are equally as smart and equally as lazy.
Yeah.
Check out the poll in the top right corner to vote for the best.
Pretty much. Well, that would be it for the video. If you guys are new to the channel, please subscribe, because we are literally 40 subscribers away from 1,000 subscribers. Who knows, we may have made it by then. Probably not, to be honest. But we should be closer. Ah! Well, that would be it. And I love you all, and goodbye.